Now let's move on into our listener question of the day, and that is, how do we cover medical costs prior to age 65? So 65 is when Medicare kicks in, so any costs you're going to incur prior to that, if you've separated service, is going to be quite a bit higher than what you're used to paying. While you're employed, the employer is covering the majority of the costs. When you separate service, you're on the hook for all of it yourself. So there's a couple different paths you can take to make this work. First and foremost is just figuring out where my insurance is going to come from. Am I going to go into my spouse's insurance plan? Do I need to pick up another job that has medical costs? Or will I pick up a part-time job just for the income so I can actually afford to cover the out-of-pocket costs? So there are a couple different avenues you could look at if you're trying to figure out the most affordable option to you. Now, assuming you are truly one retired, or we don't have a spouse that has a plan that we want to jump on because maybe they're retired as well, or let's say we don't have a spouse, what are our options looking like? So it really depends on the employer you're currently working for. If you're currently on the PEBB system already, so you work for Washington State and you're currently inside of PEBB, you have the choice of going into PEBB retiree coverage, or you can go into COBRA. Realistically, when I look at the numbers, they are a wash. So the COBRA plans and the PEBB plans, while they do have different plan options, the ones that are the exact same cost the exact same. So there's no price benefit going from one plan or the other. The biggest difference between choosing between COBRA and the PEBB is the PEBB retiree is going to be a permanent coverage solution for long term. COBRA is a short term or temporary insurance. It covers you anywhere from 12 to 3 years. Most times, on average, through most employers, it's about 18 months total coverage. So you only have a year and a half before you have to switch over anyways. And if you look at it, the cost being exactly the same, it just makes sense just to go straight to the retiree coverage, because one less thing you have to worry about down the road about choosing healthcare when the COBRA eventually runs out. Now, it's still not cheap by any means, but at least you have some type of coverage in place. Now, you can go into the private market and try to find something cheaper there. But keep in mind that the PEBB is only for public employees. Therefore, there are special rates and benefits, and the coverage options you can find there far exceed a lot of things you can find in the private market, even if it is cheaper. Because remember, you get what you pay for. While you have cheap premiums, deductibles, who's in the network, out of network, and all those little tic-tac things that they have inside of health insurance accounts, you're going to see those down the road. So PEBB usually is going to have a better coverage selection over the long run. Now, the interesting part is for those in the SEBB system, so people that work for the school districts, you're currently in the SEBB system, you also have the option to go into PEBB retiree coverage or going to COBRA. And when I look at the numbers, COBRA prior 65 in some cases are actually a little bit cheaper than what you get onto PEBB. Now, it's not a huge difference, but it is a little bit cheaper to use the COBRA coverage. However, keep in mind that COBRA is still temporary, so if you're retiring at age 60 and this thing runs out in 18 months, by 61 and a half, you're going to have to bite the bullet and jump into PEBB anyways, or go private market or figure it out. So it's just one more decision you're kind of delaying down the road, and you are going to save some money doing it. The question is just, is it worth the hassle of going through this all in a year and a half, or just want a permanent solution where you get familiar with the plan, get all my doctors lined up, and just sort of be done with it. Now, once you go post 65, the PEBB retiree coverage is definitely cheaper than the COBRA options. So if you're post 65 looking for healthcare, PEBB for retirees is usually going to be your cheapest and best option for you. Now, as far as how are we actually going to pay for this is where a lot of people get tripped up on and end up working years longer than they really need to, because they're so worried about, how am I going to pay this bill? How am I going to afford $1,800 per month? And it's really important to sit down and look at the budget, or if you have a budget, make sure you add the healthcare on top of it so you don't get tripped up later when you have a bigger bill than you originally planned for. Now, covering it can come in many ways. You can always continue to work, and that's the default option that people will often use. It's my least favorite way to pay for it, but if push comes to shove and that is really our only option, then we got to do what we got to do. Next best option is just use your savings. That's what you've been saving for hopefully this whole time anyways, is for your retiree coverage. While this bill is high, it is not permanent. It is only until you get to 65, and then the premiums get cut down in half. So it's still going to be a decent bill in retirement, but it shouldn't be so big that you can't cover it through your retirement savings. So if you have money saved and plan 3 deferred comp, Roth IRAs, this is the time where that money can come out to cover those expenses. And yes, while those expenses are going to be high and you might have to pull out more money in your earlier years, and it can get a little bit scary, understanding that this is not a permanent solution, that it is going to go down over time once you get into Medicare, and your withdrawal rate will be less. Long term, it's still a valuable option to use some of your savings for it. Other ways to pay for it is if you currently have VEBA or you have any unused sick leave, you have the option to roll money into VEBA. Now, VEBA is a 4-to-1 exchange. So whatever my sick leave is when I cash it out, I only get a quarter on the dollar. But that money goes into my VEBA account completely tax-free, and that can be used as reimbursement to cover my premiums down the road. There's a lot of people that don't like this quarter on the dollar. They feel they're getting ripped off, so they'll take it all up front in cash. When you cash out it's still the same quarter on the dollar. The only difference is now you got to pay tax on the whole thing, whereas people that went to VEBA avoid the tax benefits. So you still don't come out ahead if you choose to just cash it out and not put it into the VEBA account anyways. The payout factors are the same. Then there's the other people that say, I'm just going to use it so I can get a dollar for dollar back. Realistically though, if you look at someone that has 2 weeks of sick leave that they just take it out, they don't show up for work for 2 full weeks, and versus someone that does, your pay's gonna be the same. All you're doing is choosing to sit at home to collect the same amount of money that someone that goes to work for. So from a financial standpoint, the person that takes 2 weeks off for sick leave versus the person that shows up for those 2 weeks still has the same income coming in. Incomes are a wash overall. All you did was get 2 weeks of essentially paid time off. But the person that showed up to work for those 2 weeks now can bank that money, invest it, and use it for healthcare over time. So if you look at like total compensation, who's going to end up with more money on the road? The person that didn't use their sick leave will end up with more money even on the quarter for a dollar, because they're going to get that lump sum payout at the end where you blew yours off for 2 weeks down the road, and now you have to front all the money up for your healthcare out of your own pocket, pensions and things like that down the road. And that payout factor can be quite high, anywhere from $20, $30, even $40,000 plus, depending on what your hourly rate is, how many hours you have accrued and stuff like that. Don't make the mistake of just using your sick leave just because you feel like you're getting ripped off by the quarter to dollar exchange. All in all, the payout, if you look at who's going to end up with more money down the road, the person that works and doesn't take their sick leave and gets the lump sum at the end will have more money when it's all said and done. So VEBA is a very viable way to help cover those costs, especially in those early years. Now, the next way to cover it, personally, is my favorite, and one strategy we use a lot here in Scenic is just using the TAP Annuity to help cover those funds. So a lot of times the thought process is, I don't have enough income, right? This healthcare cost sort of exceeds or it takes the majority of the guaranteed income I'm getting from Social Security and my pension, so I have to use my savings, and people get a little uneasy about using their savings. It can be a real big mind shift of seeing your account go up and up every month as the accounts grow, as you're contributing money into it. So when you start taking money out, it's the opposite. The accounts start either going flat or even maybe going down early years, depending on how the market's performing and how much you're pulling out of it all. And some people can get really uneasy with seeing those numbers decline. Now, it is normal, especially in early years, but if you're trying to find a different solution for that, and you're on someone that is on plan 3, you can use the TAP annuity for this. If you're on plan 2, there's no TAP annuity, but you can still use annuity from the state, whether that's Left 2 annuity, PERS 2, CERS 2, you name it. Whatever your pension system is, if it ends on 2, they've got an annuity for it. It's similar to the TAP annuity that people in plan 3 have. Biggest difference is it doesn't have a 3% cost of living adjustment guaranteed for life in it. It just has the normal pension cost of living adjustments, which vary depending on what inflation rates are. So it can be earned from 0 to 3%, but it's never a guarantee. It's all year to year. You're never going to know what your future payout's going to be. For the TAP annuity, because that 3% is contractually guaranteed to them, they know exactly what their raise is going to be every single year and doesn't depend on inflation or anything like that. But either ones will work. And the strategy here is you just put just enough money in to these annuities that will generate enough income on a monthly basis to help offset either all or the majority of your healthcare bill. So for example, we had a client retire a couple years back. We ended up putting a little over $200,000, I think, inside of this TAP annuity, and the payout was just under $1,000, 900 something bucks. It was just enough to cover his health insurance as a teacher who retired early. Now, because this TAP annuity has the 3% increasing, it's going to help offset future cost increases overall. Now, there's a chance that the healthcare cost goes up more than that 3%, but the point here is the vast majority of it is completely covered on a guaranteed basis. We don't have to worry about taking extra money from the portfolio or worry about markets or interest rates, things like that. It's all coming on a guaranteed basis. Plus, in a few years, once he hits 65 and the rate cuts to in half, the $900 he's currently getting will be more than enough to not only cover his current healthcare at that time, but he's going to have a surplus to put onto anything else he wants, whether that's buying a new car and covering a car payment, whether he wants additional health costs, or he's buying insurance, life insurance, or what need be. He just has more guaranteed income because we know this healthcare cost is going to go down over time. And even fast forward to the future, if those healthcare costs do rise, we're going to have a really big buffer to play with post 65. So using a TAP annuity or any type of annuity for Washington State is a really good solution to help offsetting these healthcare costs. Now, make sure if you're going the annuity route, you want to use one from DRS and not a private annuity. Those private annuities don't pay quite as well as the state does. They have fees that get charged because it's not free for income, but oftentimes they will charge you a rider fee or a payment fee on top of it, often exceeding 1% or so. There are ones that are free out there, but usually the free ones don't have cost of living adjustments built into them. So over time, while you might get a higher payout initially, fast forward 10, 15, 20 years, that payout isn't going to change at all. And inflation is going to eat it, and it's not going to feel like it's going as far anymore. Whereas any annuity you get from the state will have some type of cost of adjustment added to it. So state's annuities are going to be very competitive anytime you're looking for income purposes. So you should always start with them. Now, they do have certain timelines on these annuities, depending on which one you're going for. So it's important to brush up on what your timelines are. For TAP annuity, there's no timeline. It just depends on if the money's in plan 3 or not. Once all your money's out of plan 3, TAP annuity's off the table. As long as it's in there, it doesn't matter if it's been 1 year or 10 years since you've separated service. As long as the money's inside plan 3, this is still a viable option for you. All the other annuities, though, do have a 90-day limit on them. So from the time you start your service, you have 90 days to decide, do I want this annuity or not? And then that option's off the table forever. And at that point, all you're left with is the private annuity market, which again isn't going to be as beneficial as using one from the state. So you want to make sure you're on top of this decision making if you're getting close to retiring, so you don't make any of these mistakes and have to buy something that is less efficient and more expensive than you could have gotten had you just sat down and taken the time to go through any research on the proper ways to fund your retirement or the proper annuities to use. So realistically, what all it boils down to is just proper planning. While it can be a little overwhelming to look at the costs and see how much that's really going to cost you overall for you and your spouse to cover you on a monthly basis, and it can be quite steep. Understand that this is often temporary. It's only until 65 before the costs get more affordable. And if you've done a good job of saving and planning, this shouldn't delay your retirement at all. So if you have any hesitations about the healthcare coverage, if I can retire now, if I have to work 3 or 4 more years, don't hesitate to set up a meeting with somebody that actually understands your benefits and can walk you through all the different costs and benefit calculations so you truly understand, can I afford to retire now, or is it absolutely necessary for me to continue to work for those 1 or 2 extra years? So if you need help with that, I'm always happy to help. Link to schedule consultations with me is in the description or show notes below this video. You can also get access to us on our free group on Skool. It's the Washington Wealth Breakthrough Group. You can sign up for free below. I've got free resources and courses on there. You can always ask questions to the community, and me or one of the other 100 members will be happy to jump in and help you answer your questions right away. If you found this information helpful or know anybody that this can help, please forward this on to them. And as always, I'll catch you guys next time. Remember that your future depends on what you do today.